Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We're going to stamp out a larch tree-based reflection card tonight. And I have pre-stamped a piece of half-page glossy cardstock. I'm going with the glossy cardstock because I wanted the most vivid and bright tones that I could get. And glossy cardstock's just the one to go with if you want as much media retention on the surface of your card as possible. Okay, and layered transparent colors just translate to a very bright and vivid end result. That's why things like movie posters and book covers and things like that are often printed on glossy cardstock. Glossy cardstock, it's coated so that you don't get as much media absorption as you do with a more porous type of surface like a semi-gloss or certainly a matte. All right, so that being said, I can't use my colored pencils on here, which I really love doing these days, but there's a little bit of a trade-off with the glossy. So I haven't used glossy quite as much as I've done in previous years. I was using it almost exclusively for, I don't know, the first 30 years of stamping or something like that. But I don't know. A lot of people just haven't used it before. They don't have it, but they have a lot of the other types of papers. So I've been using those and enjoying my colored pencils as a result. Hello, Linda, Cynthia, and Bill. How are you? How'd it go, Bill, with that with your test? Your MRI. All right. So I've pre-stamped this. This is largely nature set number 35, is that? I'm not sure. The cozy cabins, night cabins, okay? And most of it is the right side cabin right here. And then I've used these trees throughout, like right in here. You can see that right there. There's another impression, and then this impression right down here is this side of it. So pretty big layout using, basically one image. I used a little bit of the other trees off the other night cabin as well. But we got a lot of mileage out of that one stamp. Okay, so I've pre-stamped these because I don't want you guys having to sit through that like I normally have you do. And what we're going to do now is, I didn't get around to stamping the background in here. Usually I don't like this quite so filled in with a reflection card format, but this is just too much space up here, so we need something up there. And I'm not sure what color to do this, and I can't do it too light because I want to have some light, brilliant light in here and whatnot, and you can't have light without some darkness for it to contrast against. It doesn't have to be like super dark, but you need something in there. So let's just do this in black right here, and then maybe what I'll do is I'll blend in some other tones here. So there's black. So in here too, there's a lot of black and variations of green within that black. It's because I inked up my stamp all in black, and then I took a pen, this green, kind of olive green, and I added touches of green in there before stamping it out. So it's not completely black throughout the main impressions. And then those background trees are just more of the straight green used on this portion of the stamp. And then I stamp those out right in there. Okay, so they call that kind of watercolor, I don't know, printing or something like that. There was some term, I don't know, we didn't have a term for it, but in the encyclopedia of, and then the greeting card tools and techniques book, I don't know, she termed that watercolor impressions, or I don't know, watercolor technique or something like that. It's where you're blending directly on the stamp before you stamp it out. So it gives you those varied kind of, real kind of organic kind of blends of tones within the impressions. All right, so this is all black, but there's some variations of brown right in here. So hopefully it stamps out a little bit lighter. And I can also dab some tone off a little bit too. I'll dab it off the bottom right here. I'm going to have some other mountains, I think, below this one. Okay, so I'm wiping this off too a little bit down here where it's going to be overlapping these trees in here. Okay. What is that? Is it? I just got an ink spot right there. Huh. All right, let's get this whole mountain in the... I'm looking for this right here, the edge of the... or the top of the composition here. Hope it goes okay and hope you get some good results, Bill. Hello, Bonnie. How are you? Hello, Mark. Hello to anyone else that might be checking out the vid. And thanks to you all for, as always, for checking it out. And dropping by, all right. All right, so, a little bit varied in there. It looks mostly black, though, doesn't it? And let's see, let's not go with another one of these. This is the tall peak. And then we'll blend that out using the rocky peaks, okay? And I'll go with the same basic coloring style here, okay? Somebody asked me about these pens, and hey, what kind of pens were those that you were using? And I thought these were discontinued. I think they are discontinued, the 1500 series of Marvy pens, and they're probably just selling out remaining stock off the Uchida website. But I think there's also some sets on there. But if you ever get these and do this type of coloring, I did see some, I was directing someone to some, I don't know, some really inexpensive pens on Amazon as well. Just, I don't know anything about them, but they kind of look like they would work like this. Most brush markers are like a really thin tip type of thing, like, like this white paint pen right here with that tip like that, okay? But the brush markers that you want are kind of more of a bullet tip like that, okay? For this type of coloring, because you don't want to color like a textured style of design with a real thin tip, like a Copic marker type of brush marker, okay? Because it'll probably chew up that tip too much. Now, if it's just a solid style of image, like an outline one, that would be okay, but not for tonal images. It would be like running like a sandpaper, or running the tip on a sandpaper or something like that. These Marvy brush markers, they did get, a little bit chewed up over time, but they're largely kind of, I wouldn't say designed for that, but they're tailor-made for it because of that dense kind of tip on the tip like that. I'm not scrubbing back and forth. Usually I'm going like one direction, so I'm coloring it like this, okay? So I'm, applying the color in one direction as opposed to the scrubbing type of motion that would go against the grains of the brush. All right, so we have that and this down here. I can add some more texture down there, but I largely want it to be like mist or something like that. Let's do this. Let's get a little bit of texture just kind of inherent down there, or whatever, existing. And then I'll go into it with some pigment ink, white pigment ink later. This is going to get rid of some of my contrast that would have these trees kind of a little bit more defined in the reflection area. But this one's going to be all about kind of these reflected golden trees in the water. So I'm not necessarily going for this very defined edge of the trees reflecting down below. It's going to be all about these golden tones reflecting in this scene. So I don't mind kind of filling it in like that on this one. So this is what you have right here. And of course we're going with, well, not of course, but you could use silver, but I'm going with gold so that I get some slightly or more of this golden light. You can see this is a white piece of paper, but you can see like that right there, how it's bringing this kind of reflective gold up here. And you can see this little bit of a yellow golden light up here. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, it's like you turn the trees golden or something like that, but you get more of this warm light reflecting on here, which I think will benefit the those trees in there. But this is the reflection like that. Okay. And this, again, it's glossy cardstock, so glossy cardstock, so hopefully it's nice and vibrant. All right, let's see how it goes here. All right, so in here, let's see, let's just decide right now. Let's do our lighting just centralized. I'm often doing it a little bit off center for just compositional purposes, but if I do something like this, I'm not going to have light beams on this one. Sometimes I don't like light beams in reflection cards because I think sometimes those angles kind of look strange in the reflection. You know, like if I had a beam coming down this way, I'm going to have this kind of this thing like this direction. I mean, sometimes it might be okay, but I don't know. I just haven't come up with a look that I like in a reflection card where it involves the crepuscular rays. Okay, so here let's get to coloring, and let's go with a little bit of dye based inks. I was thinking about just kind of trying out just strictly the alcohol inks as base coats and just doing a bunch of alcohol ink coloring on here, but let's get a little bit of a foundation going. Okay, so if you do this, grab it could be any color, preferably a lighter tone, a warm tone, and a lot of you guys, I just always point out distress inks because a lot of people have distress inks, but things like an antique linen, an old paper. Walnut might be a little bit dark, but that would work okay too. But there's a lot of tones in that distress ink range. But basically, kind of like a tan color. All right. Your lighter tones, like a peach color would work good too. Yeah. All right. So let's get this going here, and this will provide a nice foundation, and you can use a sponge too for your this base color right here. Okay, now I did a little bit of heat setting as you saw, but my mountain is a little bit wet still, so I got a little bit of smearing there, but hopefully this is going to be a nice rich layered surface, so don't worry about little tones being smeared, which happens a lot if you just start coloring fresh impressions on glossy cardstock, because glossy cardstock doesn't dry so fast. Okay, maybe I should have dried a little bit more in here around the darker tone. I'll just kind of use it as some sky texture in there, like it's like an alto cumulus sky or something like that. I'm getting a little bit of texture, and you can see some of that black on my paper towel there. We don't need pure applications of color. Now, I don't want it all muddy or something like that. If I keep going up here, I don't know. Usually after you get a little bit of that tone on your card, and if you've heat set a little bit, that's as, the worst it's going to get. So you can just kind of go over there and, I don't know. If it's dragging everywhere, then yeah, dry a little bit more. And don't stamp something like a, VersaFine Clair on glossy. It's just not going to dry at all. The oil-based pigment inks. All right, so we have that right there. Light, a little bit darker kind of throughout here, going back to my kind of comments on checkerboarding, meaning the oscillation of whatever. It doesn't have to always be light and dark, but get a little bit of light right here. That's where my light will be coming in. And then it's going a little bit darker right here. We have this ridge line right here that's a little bit illuminated. And so it's light kind of right through here. Well, I don't want it like completely. Let's see, let's get a little bit more tone in here. So it's going light, dark, light, dark, light. And it's light right in here, but we'll go dark down here. Okay. And things don't have to be evenly spaced out either. You can have like a large area of light and it's dark and, whatever. So just kind of mix it up, and that varies your surface. It could be, this will be varying it in terms of value, but you can vary things in terms of intensity, bright and dull. It could be warm and cool. So there's a lot of different things you can do. It can be texture, soft and sharp. All right, so that is that. All right, that got a little muddy up there. That bugs me. Let's do this. Let's go with a little bit of gray. Let's try that. Since it's gray anyway, okay? You just kind of go with it. It's like, okay, that thing, turned gray, so then let's just go gray, okay? And we'll add that to the sky, this gray. It's not adding in too fast, okay? Because this is now, this paper right here is a little bit moist with ink from that previous kind of slathering of ink, okay? That's kind of what you want in that base layer. You want it to coat. And saturate, okay? Coat and saturate. Most coloring that we do, we're going for coverage, okay? But this is where we're going for saturation with your base layer coats. And that makes it easy. See, it's like I'm really able to add this in with a very, very, very kind of graceful application of tone, because it just blends because the page is a little bit moist, okay? So that's the key to easy layering, at least of the dye-based ink technique. It's always that first color. Whenever I was teaching classes, that was what I always tried to emphasize. But then we were just using pens and I was using pads. But then when I started thinking about re-inkers, and then when I started taking around re-inkers, I would squeeze out a bunch of re-inker fluid, and everyone had like a palette of whatever. Not a bunch of inks, but just of that first color. And I would have everyone start off with that one. And then when you're using that kind of re-inker and dipping your applicator into the ink, and then you're applying just so much ink, it was really almost impossible for people to kind of get a clunky application of the darker tones. They weren't getting like a streak, like a hard edge, and saying, oh my God, I can't get that out. You know what I mean? It won't blend out. It was so easy to blend out because their pages were just moist with that first color. So it kind of removed one kind of significant aspect to the blending of colors. All right. Before I used to have them do just much more, spend a lot more time on their first layering, but when you're using that re-inker fluid, just it blends into the scene so fast. Okay, so there's some gray tones like that. All right, let's take a look. All right. Lighting is definitely more established with that gray in there now. It's a little bit too gray for me though. So what I'm gonna do, it's not gonna change, it's not gonna lift off the gray, but let's get a little bit more of this. I'm gonna go back to this peach tone. I want it a little bit warmer as a base coat, so let's try that. Let's see here. Hello, Cecile and Froggy Fresh. Yeah, did everyone enjoy that ice cream? Do that again. Have another ice cream. And then everyone describe it for me so I can thus remember. I can harken back to my days of ice cream. You know, it started appearing more and more. And, okay, like I said, I wasn't always kind of lactose intolerant. It started happening in high school. But then, you know, for, I don't know, 20 years after that, I can have certain things. You know, a lot of times it was like, okay, if you eat something, you know, you can have some. And I'm starting to learn about things like, I don't know, whatever, like active cultures and stuff like that. So I'm eating something with, you know, it might have a little milky kind of component to it, a lactose-y component to it. I'm not dairy intolerant, but just lactose intolerant. But anyways, what I'm getting at is those, what is that Italian gelato places started to open up, you know? I don't know when it was. Early 2000 or 90s, something like that. That was another thing, too, I was mentioning sometimes when I wish I could have other types of things. You know, I guess I can carry a thing of yogurt around with me at all times. And have some active cultures or something like that. And those pills don't help me out too. There's those pills that you're supposed to take, you know, and help you know, digest lactose. I've tried this before and it didn't work. Maybe it's because I had too much of something. It's like, okay, I had the pills, so I'm gonna, you know, go crazy here. Maybe, I don't know. All right, so that is that. That has again kind of a nice mood to it already, and that's just, I don't know, what, there was two colors right there. But do you see how that changed though? We went from this and it was a, you know, or this, and it was a really pretty decent coat. And then I went with gray, and then, you know, I'm sure I was kind of removing some of it to a degree, but this one right here, it applied over the gray. I don't think it removed any of the gray, but, you know, it just kind of alters it a little bit. And that'll be a nice, I think that'll be a nice tone in there. It suddenly became darker than I was originally thinking about, though. All right, so larch trees, deciduous conifer trees. All right, and they turn kind of a yellow orangish tone, and they lose their needles. And I want these ones right in here. These are supposed to be large trees, contrasted against more of the evergreen style of trees. And we're going to go pretty light with them. And whatever, light and vibrant, okay? Let me see here. I'm still a little chicken about just going on with like a canary yellow in here, though. Although that's, I don't know, that's like the color out there. But let's go with a little bit of a duller tone. That's kind of why I went with the this base coat too. Okay, it kind of mellows things out, and it just, you know, kind of preps the background for these colors to come. All right. I'm not quite sure, you know, as I'm doing this, I haven't done a lot of, you know, predominantly, or I don't know. alcohol dominant coloring. I've done it sometimes when I'm working on photo paper coloring, okay? Because on photo paper with that emulsion coating, you can't, it's really hard to blend water-based media on it because it dries like instantly. So I use alcohol inks on photo paper, and then you can blend and everything like that on that. But on cardstocks, matte and semi-gloss and glossy, not a huge amount of coloring over the years with alcohol inks. I'm usually kind of embellishing with the alcohol inks on this type of paper, going for shadows or, you know, like little detailed areas that I can't get with the dye-based inks and like things like sponges and things like that. Chapman's ice cream has a lactose intolerant line. Huh. Chapman's, that's not a brand that we get. I don't think, or it's not widespread in Southern Cal. All right, so going with a little bit of a duller yellow here, okay? Kind of working up into my brightness. Since most of the yellows are all kind of light, I'm kind of working intensity. I'm going from dull to bright. Which I don't know if that's like the sequencing I should use. Should maybe, you know, maybe you should go from bright to dull. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to see if there's any larch trees in California. Maybe Northern California or something like that. I don't know if there's any like at the higher elevations in the Sierras or something like that. That's looking pretty good so far. Let's see. I hope I don't ruin it. Okay, let's see here. Let's go with a little bit of an orangish tinge, okay, as a base. Yeah, it's kind of coming around. They're not brilliant, though. I want them, like, really kind of vibrant and sparkly, things like that. Gelato's good, yeah. So I was eating this gelato at this one gelato place that opened up in a city that I used to live in, Whittier, California. And then it was like if I ate that after like dinner or something like that, I was okay most of the time. But then one time was not. And thus, that was the last time I ever had that. I think they had one. They might have had at the gelato. They might have had one kind of sorbet kind of based one. I don't think like a Baskin Robin. There's like any lactose free. You think they would have one, but they don't. Or I don't know. They haven't when I checked. All right. So we go like that. See, I'm kind of scumbling around. I'm not kind of hitting every, you know, whatever square inch of each one of those trees in there. Mediterranean mint. That sounds good. The thing is, those gelato places, see, it's like they're doing those different types of flavors. So, like a mint, I'm sure they're probably like using like real mint sometime, right? Or I don't know. Some places might like blend in like mint leaves for all you know. But I have all those kind of natural flavors like that. Does anyone remember kind of your favorite ice cream flavors when you were a kid? I say that because, you know, with kids, their answer is, when you ask them what their favorite flavor is for something like that, or food or whatever like that, it's it can be really definitive. And then maybe that was your favorite flavor for years and years. I think I mentioned in one of these videos before, one of these live streams, mine as a kid was rainbow sherbet. I think we used to get that at home too, but it was, what's coming to mind is Thrifty. I don't know what age I was. I mean, we ate different flavors of ice cream at home too, but and at some point in time, I don't know if my brother or sister or someone was getting a, chocolate mint, but I tried that one time and it was like, oh my God, the world kind of suddenly got a lot bigger for me in terms of flavors. And thus the decision got a lot tougher whenever we went to Thrifty. If anyone doesn't know and doesn't have a Thrifty in their area, Thrifty always had these, like, I don't know, whatever it was, 10 cents a scoop cones or something like that. It's a drugstore. Yeah. All right, so that is looking pretty decent as far as those yellows go, I think. And then we're going to add in the. Oh, I should have pulled those out before I started here. Then we'll use the paint pens, probably in this range right here. Okay, and maybe get a little bit of green in there too, because we do have these greens in the background, so it'd be good to have a little bit of that tone in there. Kentucky Fried in Canary Yellow. Did I say that? We hear what we want to hear, Froggy Fresh. I don't think I said that. If I did, it was subconscious here. But I don't think I said that, so I think you need to send out the husband to get some KFC to eat while watching this video. This is one of those places we were talking about Kentucky Fried Chicken a few days ago. If we go to some takeout fried chicken, it's always Popeyes these days for us. We're a Popeyes family. But we were talking about Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then I was just telling, we're talking with my kid, and he was saying, yeah, he tried Kentucky Fried Chicken one time, but it was like this franchise that was on the verge of going out of business. I think we went there and they got everything wrong. First of all, they completely forgot about the order. And when I said you forgot it, they said, hey, can we see that receipt to see what you had? And that place was closed the next week. It was and I think they got the order completely wrong too. Not that that's all indicative of all KFCs or anything like that, but that one that we went to. But yeah, we just hardly ever go. All right, we used to go all the time as kids, though. It was usually when we were traveling somewhere, though. Okay, let's see. Oh, hello, hello, Hodgkins. How are you? Harold and Linda. Let me see. We don't have Chapman's ice cream here in Maine, but we have Dorman's homemade ice cream. Hey, all right, Linda or Harold or whoever's on. Do you remember when was it? Let me see. Oh, no, I wasn't teaching at you. We always taught in-store at Penn Ventures, but I went to go teach on one of those Maine teaching trips, and there wasn't enough room in one of the stores, so we my class was taught in an ice cream store that was closed for the season. So I don't know when that was, what month that was, but I always remember that teaching in that like right in the down the out in the front area, probably the eating area of the store, the ice cream store. But I always thought that was really cool. In Maine, a lot of some of the things are seasonal, like that Glen Cove Motel and things like that. They were getting ready to wrap that up every time when I was out there. I was always out there after summer. But I always remember in one area, at one place, one store, I taught in the ice cream store, closed for the season. And in another store, probably on a previous trip, or I don't know, it might have been on the same trip. The store was a stamp store, but it was mostly, their main business was tanning beds. So you get people coming in for, whatever, half-hour session or whatever long that is in the tanning booth. And then I don't know, we were over, I was teaching my classes in a different area of the establishment, but I always thought that was really cool. It's like industriousness, you know what I mean, and really making use of I don't know, just the seasons and things like that, the weather. All right, let's go with some little bit of tone down here in these rocks. I don't necessarily want this brown down there, but I'm just using it as kind of a base color. Like that. So Linda, that is, the cabin's right there. Is just, if you just joined in, this is basically like the majority of this whole area down here is just this one stamp right here, okay? So it goes like this, and it ends right around here. But then I've used these trees from over here, like right in there. Like I stamped it right here, and then I masked these two off, and then see these trees right here off of this area of this stamp right here that's like that. That's right here. And then you can see these two trees are repeated right here, and then up there again. And then here's these two trees right here, back here. I don't know, it was like once or twice right back in there. So it's a lot of repetition of form. I just was careful that I don't want to have another cabin kind of like using the trees off of this one area right here. And it's like I get another cabin up here, I didn't want that. So I was just kind of mindful of where that cabin was located within the design. Being careful not to color that portion of it. Larch Madness. I don't know, Mark. I was watching this. I did see the Alberta Larch videos that came up on YouTube. But this one particular video, they probably got it from, some, thing that they referred to in Canada first with those large trees. But there was these larch trees that are in the Cascade area of Washington State. And I don't know, I just watched that video before this to get a little bit inspired by the larches. But yeah. But I thought that was really cool. Of course, Larch Madness, kind of a take on the March Madness, in the NCAA basketball tournaments like that. Where did I see that? Let's see right here. Homemade ice cream. We have this ice cream maker, but we don't have enough room in the freezer to put this thing in there that needs to go in there to freeze. So that we can use that ice cream maker. I noticed there's a lot of other types of ice cream makers though. Like you make it like a much smaller batch, like a 2 serving or something like that. Orange cream push-up sticks. Yeah. I remember the push-ups. I think that's when I was getting my son a lot out of those ice cream trucks. When he was a kid around here. I think that was the one. that he'd always get. Yeah. I don't know if we ever bought ice cream, like push-ups. I remember eating them, sure, certainly eating them all the time, though, as a kid. Um, let's see. I'm deaf in one ear. I don't hear that well. Well, Froggy Fresh, still get that KFC, though. When I was a kid in the run, there were two different rural routes that came around. They had ice cream in 2.5-gallon containers. Oh my God, that's huge. What type of flavor did you get with that 2.5-gallon? Were you just getting kind of like a vanilla? That's what I usually get these days in the lactose free. There's usually like vanilla, and then there's chocolate. Thing about the vanilla, I can tweak that in a lot of different directions. You can add stuff to it or whatever. Like I often I'll like shave some like dark chocolate in it or something like that. All right, let's see here. Looking at larch trees lately. Oh, good, Cecile. Awesome. We're gonna have a larch tree fall stamping retreat sometime. Wouldn't that be cool? All right, so I'm kind of going into my, or not kind of, I'm going into my mountains right here and just kind of modeling the shadow forms in here. So I'm going into the darker areas of the design, and I'm adding this, oh, I don't know what it is. It's like a 20% gray or something like that. So the forms in the mountains are now a little bit more modeled, I guess you can say. Okay, let's bring this down here too. I need like a, I don't know, I need like a 60% gray here. Let me see my other, I haven't used my other set of alcohol pens in a long time. I don't know if they're even working. This is like a super, super cheap set right here. Let's see if these ones are even working. I don't mind, with these like really, really cheap ones. They seem to be working just fine. I don't know, they're like 20 or 30 cents a pen. So if they give me a few years of use, it's like working perfectly. And if they dry out, I'm not really complaining about it. This one has a little bit of like growth on it that, I don't know, whatever pigment growth or whatever you call, whatever you want to call it. It happens on like watercolor pens too sometime though. But this set right here is probably, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years old. So again, not too bad. Yeah, but homemade though. I love the texture of homemade. Okay, now see this one right here, this pen, this one color. That's not happening for me. Let's toss that one. I thought it was just on one side. This one looks fine. That one's a little bit too dark though. Well, let's go ahead and use it though. Okay, that's not too bad. I'll blend it a little bit. It's a little bit darker than what I want by, I don't know, 20% maybe at least. Yeah, the texture of homemade ice cream can't be beat, huh? I was watching this thing on like the Food Channel years ago, and they were talking about like really nice restaurants, how they what they do is they melt their ice cream or they get it or something like that, and then they refreeze it and blend it to get that texturing right for serving. I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, let's see. I don't want to use this too much up here because it's so dark. And then if I let that set for too long, it kind of embeds into the paper. But while it's still a little bit wet, I'll take my gray, lighter gray, and I'll just kind of blend it in a little bit more before that application of the alcohol seeps into the surface. Okay. All right, let's see. This one's a little bit of a too brownish of a gray. Let's go with this one's well, this one's a warm gray. How warm is it? That's a little bit warm. We already have the warmth down here with the brown. Let's try these right here. Here's a blue gray here. Perfect. If it looks good and if it's working. Yeah, that's good. Let's see. Oh yeah, the two different mountains for the upper area. We all need KFC. Everyone loves chicken unless they're bonkers. What do you get? What do you anyone ever eat there? When it came out, when I did go and eat KFC, when they came out with that extra crispy style, it was probably like in that 1980s or something like that. I was getting that for a long time. I grew up eating the original, of course, but I was kind of leaning towards the extra crispy after that. All right, so see that right there? So I've just gone in and I've added in kind of a cool gray over the top of that warm brown, like that. It can be a neutral gray too. It's, you know, the cool gray is just, I don't know. I'm going more for the value of this more than the temperature, because when you're layering it, it's not really going to make that big of a difference. In terms of the appearance of it. It'll make a difference if you're only using a certain color of a white piece of paper. When you're blending it over all these other colors, you're not going to be able to see that much of a difference. Okay, so that cabin still needs to be addressed. We'll have to color that, you know, and render that somewhat, but I'll figure that out at some other time. I'll see what kind of lighting is involved in here. If I remember right, one is the Great Tetons. That right there is called Tall Peak, and this one is called Rocky Peaks. I think, right? Hello, Christine. Gonna use your new stamps. Yeah, let's go in here and let's go and add a little bit of this tone to these brownish touches in here, okay? Just to kind of vary it out a little bit more. I like variation in my coloring and richness, even if it's a really subtle richness, okay? Or, you know, variation, subtle variation. With more variation comes, you know, potentially kind of a richer end result, okay? You know, it can get a little muddy too, so you gotta, you know, be careful about that. But that's why I kind of just retain the lighter areas for the most part to getting things too muddied up with too much layering. That usually doesn't happen in something like this, but like in grasses or something like that, sometimes I just add so many layers in there just to get variations of green. But then I just go back in, you know, it gets muddy, and then I just go back in with the acrylic paint pens, and that kind of crisps, you know, everything up again. Remedies, you know, color. I don't know, whatever color issues. All right, so this is it's kind of a light, what is this one called? Blue gray here. It's like 25% maybe. All right, so like that. Yeah, it looks okay. Needs to get it blended in a little bit more, but all right, these pens are coming in handy. These gray tones. Oh, not that one. See, I don't like this warm gray right here. Let me see if this one's. Yeah, see this warm gray? That doesn't look warm gray to me at all. Looks like peach or something. Okay, let's see what we have here. One thing about these sets of like, I don't know, whatever, like 200 colors or some crazy amount like that is you get a decent number of grayscale just kind of within the set. And you can see, I mean, I hardly ever use these, so. So, you know, with pens that I barely ever use, you know, I don't want to pay $5 a pen for something like that, you know, so. But, yeah. All right, let me see. Yeah, these ones are goopy here. All right, here, let me go back to my Marvy ones here. I forgot I had some of these other tones here. I'm just blending out some of that gray, that harder gray. Like that. And I think that looks pretty decent. There's going to get kind of illuminated again with some white pigment ink, so I'm going a little bit over so that we can see some of that pigment ink after it's been applied. Okay. All right. Here's a little trick here too. I think I've shown this in the past, but if you use like, it's this color right here with the colored pencils. In Marvy or Memento might be a summer sky, but see these areas in here that are a little bit lighter like that? I mean, you can just leave it as is, but if you just kind of add a little bit of a bluish tinge to some of these areas, maybe not just to fill it in, but just kind of as a little embellishment in there, it looks more full to me. Okay, let's see here. I need to be careful. I'm kind of blending out some other tones right down here, but let me just get some of that on that rooftop right here. I might add another color, but I'll just add a little of this blue. If you just grab kind of the lightest blue that you have and add that in and see if it's visible at all, you can start off with that. Okay. Here's a little bit of a slightly darker blue. It's still really, really light. I'm just kind of filling, or transitioning in, I should say, not filling in, but transitioning some of that white, or some of the color into that white area like that. So it's like right up here. I don't know if you can tell at all. But it's just not so stark, okay, to me now. Like even on this rooftop here, I think just that touch of blue, I think that looks pretty decent right there in terms of, you know, I'm not sure if I'll add any more color to it or not. Maybe a little bit of tan or something like that. They had come in different flavors in the big container. That's a lot of ice cream to eat, though. 2.5 gallons, though. Wait, how many kids in your family, though? Or did you guys down that like within a week or something like that? Glad you like the leaves, Christine. So let's take a look here. Let's get our, you know, kind of get the gist of what this is looking like right now. Look at that. Okay, well, here, the thing that I almost kind of forgot about just right then was, sorry. This is going to be reflecting back up in here, so this is kind of darker looking, but then this right here is reflecting back up in here some of that light And not only that, it's that warm light too. So I need to keep that in mind. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but certainly something that, I don't know, maybe we need to keep into consideration to a degree. In other words, we might not need to take this as light and sparkly or something like that because it's going to get lighter anyway with that reflected light coming off of the gold. So, yeah. Hospital cafeteria has good food for cheap. Yeah, yeah, they do sometime, huh? I wasn't aware of that until, I don't know, my dad was in there for something. And it's like, it occurred to us, hey, this food's pretty good, you know? And then we went somewhere else. I don't know, that was my stepdad or something like that. That hospital had pretty decent food. $7.50. That's where you can go eat, you know, when choosing a restaurant. It's like, you don't think of the hospital. But now you can, Bill. You love your chicken from Popeyes. We get ours, Chris. We get ours. They always ask you at Popeyes if you want it kind of like regular or spicy or something like that, and get the spicy, or we do. Debbie, when you go there, do you know about Cajun Sparkle? It's not called Cajun Spice. It's called Cajun Sparkle. You get these. Hardly anyone knows about it. It seems, because when we ask the workers for it, can we get some Cajun Sparkle? It's like a condiment. And then you sprinkle that on your, you know, your chicken. Probably makes it, you know, it's probably not great for you because it's extra salty, you know, salt, but it's like seasoned salt or something like that. All right, so we have our paint pens here, and we'll go through kind of a range of yellow tones. We'll go with some larger highlights and some smaller ones. So this is going to be what this scene is about. I just remembered too, do we use some yellow glitter in them? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so again, just like the way that I colored these trees, see they're varied with different tones in, you know, the alcohol inks. I'm going to not apply this everywhere on them. Now this yellow right here looks pretty light, so I'm kind of applying it to the lighter side of the tree, okay, or the lighter clusters. Maybe over here it's going to get a little. These trees are over here in the darkness, so I might not use this, or I might not use as much of it. Okay, I'm just gonna have to kind of read it as I go. Yeah, let's see. Let's apply a little bit of that though. So I'm applying kind of a smaller dab too, and I can get a little bit of a smaller application. Okay, but see that right there? It's already kind of, these ones look so much more alive than these ones over here. Glad you like the mountains together. Yeah, I use those ones in combination quite a bit, Cecile. They just have a little bit of a different look. This has such a kind of a dominant, peakish look. Now you can just use one too, and you can kind of just vary it and vary the height and vary the values of it a little bit. But you can kind of play around with them like that. But they work really well in combination with one another, especially on kind of your larger scenes. When you get into the half page and quarter page, if you have a lot of area for mountains, then both of them work really well. That's what I'm going for right there, though, with these kind of autumn colors. I want that real kind of shimmery type of look with them. And this video that I was watching today, it's like what people were talking about, that were going up to see these larches and they were mentioning how they look, especially when they're backlit, But that, that can go for aspens or any type of, fall colors. It's so shimmery looking. It's like I mentioned this, the thing that comes to mind is like, I feel like when you're walking amongst this type of color and lighting, backlit colors, it's like I feel like I'm walking like in a living stained glass. That really stands out right in there, but this is going to dry and it gets darker, okay? So it moves more towards kind of transparency. So I guess I can add this in here and not have it so whatever, contrasted, okay? So adding this over into my darker areas, because those ones, I don't know, some of these little applications in there are pretty, got pretty dark when it dried. We'll see how it goes. Okay. All right. I don't think I need this one. This one's a duller yellow. Let's stick with the brighter one for right now. We'll use it if we need to. Need to in terms of it being just too bright. Okay. Now see that when we go a little bit more sparkly and lighter like that, it shows up in the reflections a little bit more. Now this is gold, so this gold is darker than like a mirrored silver. So I think I could stand to go with like some white on these two, just to punch the reflections a little bit more at the top of it. So I'll keep that in mind here. Let's see here. It'd be interesting to get some, instead of clear crystals, if they're equally as sparkly, get some just like some yellow or gold ones. It might look too golden though, I want it more yellow, but I don't know. There's a lot of different colored crystals out there these days, those crystal rhinestones, and if they're really small, it seems like it would be pretty good to go with. Did anyone answer that for Bill? The cabin is the Nature Set 35 night cozy cabins, and it's the right cabin, right side cabin, and that's what was used for most of the trees as well. Hello, Verna. Thanks for checking out the scene and saying hello. One of my most memorable meals, Maine. The Hodgkins took me out to a lobster dinner. She said, hey, you're in Maine. You might as well, partake. And I tell people, yeah, you guys talked me into that. It wasn't the smallest one. You said, hey, it's, when you get the smallest one, it's the weight of the shell too. So if you get like a quarter pound up or, whatever, it becomes that extra kind of jump in weight is mostly like, it's like meat. But man, that was like too much lobster. It was delicious, but man, and I don't want to like waste it, so I ate it all. But man, I was full. It was one of those things where when you're like halfway, you're thinking, I might be in trouble here. And I remember eating and being really full, and I had this whole claw left. But I did it. The 0.7 millimeter. Okay, so a little bit of a smaller, whatever, sparkly highlights here. look at this right here. This one, my little additions right in here kind of are barely visible. A little bit more layering on the left side of it, but yeah, these ones right over here are standing out quite a bit. Maybe they haven't dried yet. I'll do a little bit more blending on over here though with them. I'll kind of connect some of the dots. It's looking too kind of, I don't know, whatever, pointillism-ish. So we'll just kind of add more dots, and that will connect some of those separate little dots, okay? So it doesn't, you're not kind of aware so much of like a bunch of individual dots because they're kind of clustered together now with whatever additional smaller textures here. Before I went out to Maine, I'd never heard of a lobster roll before. So I'm driving to the Hodgkins store, Penn Ventures. I'm driving up from Portland, and all these little restaurants along the way. It says lobster rolls, I don't know, whatever, you know, maybe there was a price on it or something like that. They would think, what is a lobster roll? All right. Nice shimmery tones like that. Soak the tips in alcohol. Oh, that's a good idea, Debbie. I'm looking at the areas down here to see if that did, how that contrast is looking. See right here, there's that, the edge of that water's edge right there at that brown. It's not really blended in very well right there. You know, it should transition into the darkness a little bit more. I can't see it very much like this. It looks like it's fine, but then when I add this to it, this is reflecting back up at that water's edge right there. And then it's naturally, and then it's being mirrored in the water too. So it stands out a little bit to me. I mean, it's just a little, it's not like a big problem or anything like that, but those little types of things like that stand out to me a little bit more. I like into the details here. So I'm just going to take some black. I'm just going to add this black right down in here, like about like so. It's way too dark for that, but then we'll just take that black and we'll blend it in, hopefully. Let's see. Let's go with this gray here. Yeah, this gray is easily able to blend out that black. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to be careful in the here not to just kind of completely lift off all that black application. Because if you go in here with like a lighter color to blend in the darker one in alcohol right after you stamp it, it's almost like the lighter color that you're doing the blending with almost becomes like a blending pen. You know, it can lift off all the color that's already been applied, which I don't want. I just want to blend it out a little bit more. All right, let's see here. Yeah, okay. See, this transitions right down here now a little bit better, like that. All right, and the larches I think are looking pretty decent in terms of how they're standing out here. Ben and Jerry, yeah, Ben and Jerry's. That's all. That's I think that's a national brand now. I don't think they Ben and Jerry's. They're not part of the company anymore, are they? Let's see. Okay, I think I'm done with the larger pens here. Let's do this too. I don't know if I need a little bit of this green in here, but let's add a little bit just for the sake of it. A little bit of this greenish tinge right here. Cajun Sparkle, yeah. At Popeye's, ask him for that if you ever go in there. Anytime anyone ever goes in there. Everyone go out and eat. If you have Popeye's near you, go in and get a, whatever, a 2-piece meal tonight. Even if you're on Eastern Standard Time and it's 8, almost 9 o'clock. And then ask them for Cajun Sparkle. All right, a little bit of green here. This is it's a kind of a yellow green right here, and we're just kind of adding it to the mix here, just because there's greens right up there in those trees. And it's good to get a little bit of that color continuity within your forms. Let's go in and add in some highlights into the scenery now. I'll start off with the kind of a beige pen here, and we'll go on the tops of some of these rocks. A little bit smaller of a highlight on some of them if they're in the darker areas of the scene. In lighter areas of the scene, you can do kind of a larger application. All right. So this is a way to go back and add the shape and form to a lot of objects that just get colored over, okay? You can add their shape and I don't know if you're adding gesture into it, but a little bit. And you don't have to do it over every single thing in there either. If you just add it to a few of them, it just kind of reestablishes the form quite a bit more. And then for something like this too, it just looks better having those little highlights on certain things like that. Okay, now do you see these tree trunks in here? They're standing out decently still, but I really like going in and adding in kind of stronger trunks back into it with a little bit more contrast. Let's see, here's another rock right here. So this is really drying and it's getting quite a bit darker. I'll add some white to it if we need to. But you go like this, I flip it upside down and just give it a check like that. So there's that trunk right back in there. It's really obscured. And I'll try to go in here and just like that. This one right here, I kind of added one in there where one didn't exist. Just, I don't know, to get a little bit more of a contrasty reflection for the water down below. So these little things like that, those will reflect really nicely. And then we have these like posts from the cabin too, and some of those got a little bit colored in. So I'm just kind of reestablishing them like that, where I didn't work around them because it would be harder to work around and then just add in a little bit of a line later on. Okay, so let's do this on this one too. I'll kind of go like this and kind of break up a little bit of a line like that. See that right in there? I don't know, it makes for a fun kind of a, I don't know, kind of a structural kind of a addition to those trees in there. $65 a pound right now. I don't know what pound, I don't know, you know, when you go in a restaurant, I don't know, what did you order by like the pound or something, like a 1 pound, or it's like a 1 1/4 or something like that? If you guys took me out to dinner again there at a lobster place, you can get the quarter-pound lobster, like the half one, or the quarter, one claw maybe, at that price. $65. Wow. 6 kids in your family. Oh, okay. Every almost daily in winter months. Yeah, with 6 kids and a couple adults, you're going through that 2.5 gallon pretty fast, huh? Piccadilly cafeterias. Never heard of that one. Oh, Debbie's allergic to shellfish. Oh, bummer. Okay, let's see. I think we're almost ready for that lower portion, I think. Okay. Let's do a little tweak right here, and let's move on to the lower area. And the lower area is just going to be stamping out some images on it. Okay, so that cabin right in here, I'm just going to... Maybe I'll add in that warm tone here. I'm going to add this around my windows, like this. So there's already tone in the design itself, making those windows stand out. But I'll just do a subtle coloring around it so those windows stand out even more, and the cabin has more kind of visual mass to it. We'll put some of this, and I actually have a little bit of the shadow from the trees in the design. It's like a little stippled area, so I'm just going in and adding a little bit of color to that shadow, so you make the the rooftop have a little bit more volume. Okay, I think that's all I'm gonna. Well, okay, here. There's these little. Okay, I suddenly can't remember. What is the name of those things on the top of a roof to keep it kind of waterproof? I want to say slats, but it's not that. It's not tile. This one's not tiles. I can't think of the name. I don't talk about roofing very often in live streams, so I can't think of it. But anyways, I just went along a couple of those lines in there. Okay, I don't like to leave anything like pure white usually in areas, unless I'm going for like extreme kind of shingles. Thank you, Debbie. All right, let's go in. Oh, okay, here. Before I go down to that lower portion, then we add in some pigment ink here. Let's go in and add this. What was that up there with the mussels? I'm sensitive to mussels. We grew up on an Air Force base next to the ocean, and I don't think anyone has eaten mussels, because we could have got a gazillion of those. We were always going for abalone and sometimes clams when we found out where they were at this one area around these tide pools, like on a negative tide. But mussels, man, there were mussels everywhere. And then there was these other types of, oh my God, I forgot what they were called. But this is gourmet food now, but we used to see this other thing all the time. And I don't know, we could have had a gazillion of those. And like people eat like sea cucumbers. We used to see those all the time. It's like, I wouldn't have eaten it as a kid, when we saw that type of thing when I was at that age, though. I don't think I would have even eaten the mussels. I was barely eating the clams. I did some abalone sometime, but wasn't really that into it. All right, that looks better, huh? This is white, and I'm putting some highlights in there. It's adding a little bit of, kind of a little bit of extra kind of sparkle and contrast. It might kind of reflect in the water a little bit better now with a little bit more contrast. I don't know. The white might, kind of disappear and become a little bit more of a light yellow or something. I'm not sure. Larch madness. That name for cracks me up. All right. Yeah, that I think the reflections of those trees looks a little bit better with that additional white in there. Cajun sparkle or the Mardi Gras beads. It does, doesn't it? Halibut. My dad used to catch halibut. Yeah, that's the fish that's like the fish that the non kind of seafoody, fish that people like eating, nice and mild and flaky. Yeah, Debbie, that cabin's all yours to sleep in. You can get reservations online. Look at the larchmadnesscabin.com. Let's see. I'm excited about my trip to Maine. There in about 8 days. 8 days. Oh, November. It's Yeah. You got to get out there to Maine sometime in that full color too. Unless that's what I mean. Sometimes that's like if people are living up in those areas like that, that's not going to be any big deal. But God, for me, that was just such a spectacular trip hitting that area in full color. All right, so here, I'm blabbing on right here. I'm kind of getting my bearings though. I'm kind of looking at this and I'm thinking about my objects down here that I want in this piece. I usually just keep it pretty simple. There's a couple of designs that I use all the time. I find like the boulders with lichen, like right down in here. I could take the time to block this off in white and stamp it over in black, and then you kind of shade it and spray seal it. But most of the times these days, with my reflection cards, I just stamp in that lower section images just in some black. Stays on ink, and I just keep that lower section really simple. And I think that's what we'll do on this one. Okay, and so I'll add some of this right down here, and I'll create kind of a near shoreline, and we'll do that. Like chicken pox, only older. I've had shingles. It's dreadful. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Uh, I've heard that about the shingles. My brother-in-law had a case of those. I don't know. It might be 15 years at this point in time, but it seems like more recent, but it's probably been quite a while. But yeah, he was talking to my wife about that. And then I've heard that from other people too. Same thing with chicken pox. If people get chicken pox kind of like as they're older, it seemed to be, the symptoms were like far, far worse. Like I'm glad I had that chicken pox when I was a kid. My brother and sister got it, then I got it soon after. And my brother and sister are like 5 and 7 years older than I am, so I got it like really young. So the symptoms weren't really too bad. But I had a friend at high school get that, and I don't know, his was like a bad, bad case. 1, 2 impression. Let's just go for the 2 impressions like that. I was going to do it all the way across like that, but let's just keep it at 2 and keep it a little bit more slightly varied. It's not that big of a thing. There's the rocks right there. Okay, now those ones don't really show anything, so if you put, let's see. I was thinking about doing these leaves right here, but maybe we'll go for a pine on the edges, like a larger pine tree. Yeah, let's go for those larger pines right here and here. And that should Finish off the scene really nice. Okay, I'm gonna have to, let me flip my camera out here. It's like locked into a certain distance and focus here. I don't know why it does that. Sometimes it does though. It gets like muscle memory or something. Okay, here we go. All right, so I think some larger trees right here. This is like a, like I said, it's a larger scene, so I think let's go for a little bit more scale just to fill up this area a little bit more. I love tide pools. Yeah, that was my favorite thing as a kid, going to the beach. Was exploring the tide pools for sure. I like playing around in the sand too, but it was like the tide pools were where it was at. All right. Rocks, pines and rocks. And I'll go right here with one impression, and we'll do this on the other side like that, okay? So what that'll do is it's kind of creating a little bit of framing right in here. And it also, if you haven't seen me talk about this before, this is your reflection card like this. And you can see where this reflects down this way. It's going vertical, but then, so we have this going back in perspective like that. And we have these little wedgy kind of shapes on the right and left bottom corner going up, you know, to that point right there. And I like to kind of obscure that a little bit so that I can kind of retain kind of most of the imagery inside that's reflected down here. So I like to kind of obscure that a little bit. You don't have to block it out completely, but if you block it out a little bit, I think it kind of helps in the illusion. My papers right now, we're having these Santa Ana winds, which are these really dry offshore winds because the wind is coming from like inland, which are the deserts around here. So all my like cardstock is like, the metallics are like bowing on me a little bit. All right, stays on right here. Let's see if I have enough ink on here. Nope. Let's mask off that rock right down here. So I'm stamping about this much of this design. I'm not going for these rocks down below, okay? The fish that doesn't taste like fish. All right, good impression. I'm glad I re-inked. All right, so that's what that looks like right there. Okay. It's really hard to kind of photograph reflective material sometimes. If you do something, if you stamp on metallics or reflectives, sometimes you got to kind of hold the card. You know, people like to have a card like that and they photograph it and post it wherever online. And but with metallics, you might have to hold it with your hand to get the right angle to photograph it from where it's the most, I don't know, kind of visible and where you don't have things reflecting in there. Like, it was hard for me to get kind of an angle when I was kind of first using metallics. It's like, I'm in the card, you know, or I'm in the reflection, I'm in the photo. So it's like, oh, I just kind of started holding the card with my hand and doing a video instead. Let's do this too. Let's go for a few more of these trees like down here like that. Just the tree tops. This would be a good spot to put like a deer or something like that looking across the water, but I don't think we'll be able to see it at all if I don't do some white out down here, white out blocking out with some white pigment ink, but then I'd have to spray seal it. All right, so this is what we have right there. Oh, there you go. You can see it a little bit better like that. Okay, now let's get a little bit of texturing up here with the tiny rocks small, and I'll put some little bit maybe around in here too. And let's see what it looks like. Okay, so we'll stick with the Stays on ink. With the Stays on ink, with a small stamp like that, if you're doing a lot of impressions, kind of, you know, when you stamp this down, just watch out, you know, that you don't slide with it, because it's really easy to do with, you know, wet ink with a small stamp. Without a lot of surface area, and if you're stamping it kind of quickly, I mean, you don't have to do it quickly, but you know, like this, like I can feel it wanting to kind of move on me when I'm making the impression. I gotta make sure that I don't hold this down with my fingertips, because I can put little dents into the foil. All right, so this is how this looks right here. See those little tiny rocks right up there, and I put a little bit right around that shoreline right in there. There we go. You can see a little bit better. Okay, I just left the interior just as is. All right, so there we have it, like that. Hopefully that looks reasonably three-dimensional. We'll have to adhere that to that top part like that. All right, that's what that's looking like, just with the stamped imagery and things like that. Let's go in and add some finishing touches to it with some additional lighting and texture. And I don't think it'll be, I don't know, it's subtle, but it's a fairly dramatic kind of end result, I think, from a textural standpoint. White pigment ink, and you can use, okay, I know this thing's like completely dry at this point in time, or almost. You can use, this is glossy cardstock, and if you tried, you know, a oil-based pigment ink on here, it should dry in this type of really thin application. I mean, that's what I used for years and years and years. Okay, I used a Color Box Frost White, which is an oil-based pigment ink. And those types of inks might not dry if you stamp on an image onto a glossy cardstock, because it's a really thick application. But if you do a really thin application like what we're going with here, it's so thin it dries just fine for me. All right. But you might have to spray seal. Okay. With the Brilliance ink, I would spray seal. I'm going to spray seal on here anyway, because it'll make the dye-based inks and everything like that so much more vibrant. I don't know, this looks pretty vibrant right now, but like up in the sky, sometimes it'll dull out a little bit. With other types of inks, okay? Other brands of inks, when you're layering them like that. But yeah, the spray sealing will kind of more firmly affix your oil-based media pigment ink to this type of surface right here. Okay, so So this, we're talking about the layers, this mountain in conjunction with that one. I was mentioning how they're a good combination. I'm going to make this one look like it's in front of this one, okay? So I'm just pushing the tall peak back in a visual, from a visual standpoint with the use of this white pigmenting. So now, see, this could have been like, kind of much closer to that one. And I could still make it if I bring like some pigment ink over that one. But if I leave that one kind of just more crisp and I'll, mostly apply this white pigment ink to the background and, part of that mountain right there, it kind of pulls one forward and pushes one back. From a textural standpoint, it's a lighting standpoint too. Like about like so, okay? And then you have that light kind of coming in front of there like that, okay? Now this is going with darker. It's kind of soft. It's going light, dark, light, but it's also going soft, sharp, soft like that, okay? So now in this area down here, let's do the same type of thing. Let's bring in some white pigment ink from the lower portion. And we'll transition into the darker area. So again, this is starting in my lighter area, and then you work into the darker area like that. Same thing down here, okay? Let's push this tree right there, the smaller tree right here. Let's push it back a little bit. And so I'll just put some white pigment ink over it. Or in this tree right here, I'll just put some pigment ink into it. It doesn't really push it back distance-wise because still part of it is still dark, but it varies it in terms of the impressions. So, you get a much kind of a richer object because it's varied now instead of kind of monotone, mono value. You don't have to do that on everything, but since we're kind of dealing with this kind of illusion of light, it kind of happens as a byproduct of adding this in here too. So it's like I don't know, it's doing a couple things at the same time. All right, so there's a little bit of that kind of that hazy mist in there, so presumably being illuminated from this kind of center area glow in the sky like that, okay? And this area down here is all the same texture, okay? I think it looks fine as is, but let's add in a little of this texture and down here as well. So we're going from sharp, soft, sharp, soft, sharp, soft like that. And it's also going from, it's oscillating light and dark too. So these are just the fun little tweaks, and it's like so easy to do. With this technique right here, it's super easy to do. You just don't want to have like way too much ink on your cotton ball, and it's easy to do. It's just where, you're kind of adding a little bit at a time, and you're just building up accordingly. So a little bit more precarious, the wetter this is, so have it dry. Almost to where it's like you can't even see what you're applying with like a couple taps, okay? All right, let's take a look like that. I mean, I think this scene looks pretty cool, just even without the reflection portion of it too. I might add in, not in this live stream, but I might add in some glitter into these trees. I don't think it looks gaudy because it kind of you can't even see the glitter at certain angles, and only when you kind of like rotate it a little bit does it kind of show up. Oh, you know what I forgot to do too? Now I'm looking at this. Is let's add a little bit of highlighting to some of these peaks in here, okay? So I added some shadows using the alcohol inks, okay? Now I'm adding a little bit of highlighting with a pen. You should really do this before you add in the white pigment ink over the top of it too, but let's see what we can do here. Right along the top of the ridge lines. It's kind of adding a little pop of contrast. And I don't know, I guess texture. All right, let's see. Yeah, there's a little bit more contrast in some of these areas. All right. You see those white trunks in there? That little, paint in there. Those really kind of stand out a little bit more. Let's see. Speaking of that, there's one right here. Couple branches. Like that. Oops. Main Cabin Masters. Is that like a reality show or something like that? That sounds pretty cool. I'm reading back here up in the fish that doesn't taste like fish. All right. Yeah, thanks for joining in, Linda and Harold, or whoever's watching there. All right, folks. That is it. Okay, so you see these trees right here on the edge down here. So it kind of creates a little bit of a contrast against that back as well. I thought about adding in like this little figure on here on a paddle board, but it's too dark in here right here. Okay, if this was like open sky up here and then this whole area down here was a lot lighter, I'd add that in, but I think it looks good just like that. I don't know, that little thing in the water or something like that would be pretty cool too. When you add in something right on here, or a word stamp or something like that, it looks so three-dimensional. Let's see. I don't know, that kayaker, I have a kayaker that's going like this direction. I'd have to add them right here, though, because if I add them up here, you're not going to be able to see them because of all that contrast right in there. I might have to leave this one as is, without any other thing in there. But I wouldn't mind those larches, with a little bit of glitter on them. See, if someone opens it up like this, okay, there's different angles in here that are going to be, that's going to happen as you do that. So with that that holographic glitter, just a few little touches, like in some of these trees right in here, it could twinkle a little bit as you open up the card, and I think that might look pretty cool. I already want it kind of shimmery like that looking, and there isn't as much, that glitter would add a little bit of extra movement because it's like flashing in there. So I'll think about doing some of that in there too. But you see that kind of texture down here, that little white pigment ink in there? It really adds. See, it looks like this little mist down there. Don't you think that looks really cool? And it was just like a couple dabs of a cotton ball down there. And it really stands out down there because everything else right around it is really crisp looking. So, and I think it's really effective up here, just doing that little push and pull type of thing with things at different distances. So it doesn't have to be a background type of thing. It could be a foreground type of thing like this down here too. So you can use that type of effect in so many different ways. Or maybe it's in the same way at different distances, I meant. So anyway, Larch madness here. It'd be cool if we can do something with those same colors right here in the foreground. in, I don't know, yellows or something like that, it would really make a nice contrasting area in the foreground. I don't know how to do that at this point in time. Maybe going in with something like a stays on white on with leaves or something like that. Then you do little additions of color maybe. I don't know if you have to spray seal it, but then you do additions of color with maybe with some paint pen or something like that. But like if you did something really light and brilliant right here, then it would go light. And then this area in here would get darker, and then you'd have the light again like that. So you'd be playing with kind of that contrasting type of value changes going from this lower portion like that. So I've tried it before, but then the little paint pen, it just looked too kind of awkward looking like that. But maybe maybe if we stamp some of these things out in like a white or something like that, like it stays on white, then I don't know, maybe if you're using a stamp position, then maybe you can ink it up again with the yellow stays on or something, and then stamp over the stays. I have no idea. So you can get the impressions in lighter tones like that. And I think you'd have to go with the white first, though, because I think if you just stamped directly on that with like a gold stay or yellow stays on or something like that, I think it's going to be transparent and it won't show up over the top of a foil. So yeah, I don't know. Glitter glue, yeah, glitter glue might possibly work too. Yeah, but I don't know if I have any of the like the stickles, type of things, but that might be good too. I think I might want a little bit more of that flash. I might not, when I think about it though, in theory, and it's only because I've done this, in the past here. I thought that glitter, that chunky glitter it'd be too much. But the thing about that chunky glitter though, in application is that it's metallic, so it's not really, it's not flashing that really super, it's not flashing all the time because it has to get that reflection. I don't know, I have a piece of it right here, but I mean, this looks kind of extreme right here, this glitter right here. But the thing is, at certain angles, though, like that color over that, it doesn't show up at all, so it only flashes, at whatever angles it needs to based on whatever angle the glitter's been placed on, and I guess the lighting that's hitting it. So, and then we'd get that flashing kind of light down in here. Right now, as light as that is right there, down here it's a little bit darker. So I don't know. I think that would be kind of helpful. It would be like it reminds me of having like little LEDs or something like that, within the card without doing anything kind of electronic, or having to. So I think that might kind of wake up some of these things. Sometimes, I don't know, I worry about this chunky glitter being kind of too big, but I don't know, I think it worked pretty good in the past. I don't know if I've done it with these trees like that size of it, but if I apply it down there and if I don't like it, I can always just take a tip of a X-Acto blade or something like that and just flick it off. I would just use it on a couple of the trees, and if I don't like it, then I only removing off like, I don't know, whatever, like 3 pieces of glitter on there. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. Yeah. Yeah, I'm always thinking about these things in here, huh, Cynthia? So it's like, will this work? So I tell you what my ideas are, and most of the time, if I have any kind of like fears or something like that, or whatever that are popping up, trepidation, and kind of whatever the conclusion to, whether I decide to do something or not. But yeah, I don't know. The more I talk about this though with the glitter, I think I'm going to add it in there. I'll do that on a separate video though. It won't take too long though, but I think it'll kind of add a nice little touch to it. This area up here too, I'm looking at that. If I don't know if I don't know, like a word stamp up there might be kind of interesting too. I don't know. I might not have left too much space up there, or like a little quote stamp or something like that, or uh, I don't know, like some birds or something like that might be kind of interesting up there. I don't know. I guess having it kind of open like that, it's a little bit more quiet though, visually quiet. I don't know. There's different things that we can do. If I did this scene again, it wouldn't look like this either. It would, there'd be different variations to it. I would twist something and I don't know, play with these little components or whatever. I'd probably leave more space up there with a. I think this scene right here would be really cool with some kind of cool quote in there, something about color. I have these different quotes in the scenic sentiment range in regards to color and fall colors and things like that too. So sometimes with something like that, you have to leave space for a quote though, and you have to kind of design it around it. Or I can put it on a separate piece of paper, but then I'd be covering it up, and having something down there like that. But anyway, all right. Had fun with the larches. I really love coloring them too. My favorite part of this whole scene, I think, in terms of the process, was those trees with the alcohol pens. I loved how those were looking. Just it seemed like I could color them no matter in any way that I wanted to. And it seemed like with whatever color I added, they looked fine. Things didn't look blobby. With a, I don't know, what was it, like four colors of variations of yellow on them like that with a little bit of that orangish tinge in there. I think that was really fun to do. So anyway, Larch Madness, or any type of fall foliage type of thing, I'd recommend giving it a try and then embellishing it a little bit with, there's so many different paint pens these days. And this paint pen set right here that I'm using with the 42 colors, I posted this on Facebook, but I bought that set for like $42, like $1 a pen, and I thought that was a really good deal like 3 years ago. But lately I checked on that like Amazon Prime Day just out of curiosity because I had a couple colors that I've used up completely and have gone completely dry, and like that Amazon Prime Day, it was like 42 colors. It's the Artistro extra fine 42 color set. It was like $13. And then I checked the price again after that day. I thought, okay, well, what's the price now? It was only like $15 for 42 colors there. So with things like this, and getting that kind of shimmery colored light in there, those pen sets really come in handy like that. Can you emboss? I think you can emboss on the cardstock, Laura. I'm really careful about embossing on this. I have done it before though. I started doing a little bit of experimenting with embossing. Maybe it's been a year and a half or 2 years at this point in time. So you have to be careful with heat on this golden one, especially because what it does is that it's like when you're heating up like brass or something like that, it creates that kind of rainbowy looking effect where you start to get all these other colors, and you have to think about delamination. So if you're heating something up, you have to get that embossing powder hot enough to melt, but you don't want to keep that heat on there long enough for this to really start to bow, delaminate, or color, because you can see that greens and oranges and stuff like that. I did a video on that, how you can utilize that kind of that color change for, I don't know, whatever, strategically. For me, it was more like where I have something like in the sky and I'm going for that kind of color change up there, like it's like a little bit of a rainbow you can see in the clouds sometime or something like that. But just kind of watch out for those metallics when you're doing those that embossing on the metal. Someone told me, probably one of these chats or something like that, well, you heat from the top and then you heat from the back too. So a lot of times I'm just kind of oscillating it back and forth, and then I'm really watching for that color change on there. So you might have some types of papers that will, or embossing powders that will emboss faster. Maybe the finer ones, maybe, I don't know. Or different brands might have a lower kind of a requirement, to melt. I don't know. you know, I haven't experimented too much, like I said, around with the embossing powders. Now, if you're talking about that though, Laura, if you're talking about on the you know the cardstock, you know, yeah, you can emboss on that for sure. Glitter, the demon of every crafter. Yeah, I did that glitter. I haven't used it in a little while though, but it was like, oh my god, that and the glitter and the here it is, the glitter and so we talk about the glitter being, you know, getting everywhere. This one's like a chunkier one, so that I do have that residual thing, but it's these embossing, or not the embossing powders, but the luminous powders like this. This one is the thing that I'm finding that I get quite, you know, quite a bit everywhere, or it lingers around everywhere for a little while. For me, at least in my setup right here, people probably have they're kind of like, they're stamping in like a crafting tray or something like that when they're doing their embossing or, you know, powders or something like that. And so where you can just kind of like take it outside and just tap it off and it'll come off. But I don't, you know, I haven't been thinking about that. So I'll get this gritty kind of shimmery glitter covered stamp effect for like months afterwards. But that's, you know, the cards come out better that way, right? You know, the more clutter and glitter and all that stuff all over the place, you know, isn't that conducive to the creative process? It's a good reason to excuse not to clean all the time, huh? Or to keep our places kind of immaculate. All right, let's see here. This card is a John Denver Ding come to life. Yeah, Rocky Mountain High. I don't know. I don't know. There's probably. I don't know if there's larches and is there any larches in Colorado? There might be up at elevation, huh? Heat from the back first and then finish off. Oh, that's your process right there. So you get it like nice and hot and then you finish it off where the powders are kind of getting a little bit. That's smart too, because it's getting locked in a little bit more from the back, huh? Before you're bringing that heat on the top, you know, where it would be prone to kind of you know, scattering that embossing powder all over the place, right? Huh. Yeah, I'll have to think about that, or I'll have to remember that the next time I do that. Yeah. Thanks, Christine. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for checking out Larch Madness. It makes me really feel like doing a really huge scene at some point in time, like an 11 by 17, where we get these trees like everywhere, like in the distance and the foreground and everything like that. So, yeah. Thanks for joining in, everyone. Go to Popeyes, get some of that Cajun Sparkle, and it's by request. It's free. It's a condiment, and then you can have your favorite ice cream afterwards, and thus have your like super healthy kind of evening after watching this scene card. All right, folks. Thanks again.